Bethesda, one of the largest video game companies in the world. For years, people have enjoyed their vast open-world RPG-style worlds. From the medieval world of Elder Scrolls or the galaxies of Starfield, Bethesda has done it all. And while most people might have some choice words to say about most of their games, one game everyone seems to love is Fallout New Vegas. And with all the hype around the new Fallout show, it got me thinking, I've never actually played a Fallout game before. So let's start exploring this wasteland with Courier 6, or as I like to call her, Yo Mama. The game opens with you getting shot in the face. No, really, it does that. You get saved by Victor, a cowboy Securitron, who just happened to find you and bring you to a doctor. Once you're all patched up, your game will probably crash. But hey, that's okay, because the New Vegas fanbase says it's okay. You set off to track down the man who shot you, and along the way, you meet various different towns, groups, and just some straight up weird people. While we're on the topic of the world, let's dive into it.
New Vegas. The perfect wasteland to eat fancy meals, buy illegal guns, and of course, lose all my money. You can visit world-famous landmarks, such as the Hoover Dam, this religious spot, and everyone's favorite dinosaur statue. So why don't you come on down and join me in the desert? We'll have a good old time, you and me.
Okay. Enough with the silliness. People who know me know that I don't like open world games. Not in the slightest. But for some odd reason, I actually really enjoyed wandering the wasteland. It felt like every 30 seconds of walking, I would find something hidden or just a small little base to investigate. I think the issue is that so many open world games today are just empty and bland. I'm looking at you, Halo Infinite. Oblivion made sure that that was not the case here. Although some places may seem very similar to each other, I think that's more of just a wasteland setting issue than a development issue. It's not just the towns and the people that make this world feel immersive though. There are so many annoying bugs and little creatures to just attack you on sight. So much in fact, that it makes the wasteland actually feel like a danger. And it definitely is. I've witnessed muggings, gang violence, and I even got bombed. What was that? New Vegas is also laid out very nicely for the player to understand where they should be depending on where they are on the playthrough. Areas like the fort are blocked off until you're welcome to visit in the story. The wasteland feels like people actually live and salvage here. The world tells a story just as much as the characters do. Anything the characters reference and detail, you can go see for yourself. I may be making this place sound perfect and like Fallout Heaven, but let me assure you, that is not the case. If a mountain or even a steep hill is in between you and your waypoint, you have to walk all the way around it. You cannot climb over a very accessible hill to save time. New Vegas is full to the brim of invisible walls that take away from the experience and just straight up piss me off. I'm not gonna lie. In all honesty, it's not that big of a deal because the map isn't super large, but it's also not too small. It's a perfect size. It's perfect. I love it. But I'm just an invisible wall hater till I die. On a more positive note, I actually really liked the look of the wasteland. Even for a wasteland, I found it a strange kind of beautiful. The limited plant life was always a pleasant sign of hope, and something about the decay and wreckage is just really fun and appealing to stare at. I'm also a huge fan of the amount of women of the night lurking around the streets of Freeside. Freeside might honestly be my favorite area, and not even because of the place itself, but because of the people that live there. One of Bethesda's trademarks is their NPCs. From weird Twinkie elf guys to badass ghouls, they've done it all. So, thankfully, Oblivion made these NPCs, and they're great. They still manage to keep the charm of Bethesda's, but I feel like there's just more character to Oblivion's NPCs. I'm basing this on nothing, by the way, so I could be completely wrong. Anyway, I really enjoyed the way every NPC had their own personality to them and how they spoke, even though there were only, like, 4 different voice actors in this game, but I can never escape Yasuo. It pisses me off. There are so many different factions in this game, and watching them all interact through dialogue or just flat out war is so enthralling. Or I even love how you can interact with them. You can gain reputation by doing quests for each side and unlock new dialogue or areas, Or, if you choose to work against a faction, they begin to villainize you and will attack you on sight. This happened to me a lot. A faction system isn't a new idea or anything, but I personally haven't played a game that handled it as well as New Vegas. Smaller factions lie within the larger ones too, such as the best one in the game, the Kings. And every choice you make affects them as well as the larger factions. Don't worry, by the way. The game tells you if you got them killed or not by the end of the game. In my experience, it was heartbreaking. Throughout your journey, you will meet some people who may seem like bad news, but turn out to be really nice guys. And then some people who may seem nice end up trying to murder you. And then they're just some idiots too. In classic Bethesda fashion, you can also have companions to join you on this quest for revenge. I only found 3 in my playthrough, but I bet there were way more to be found. Something about having the choice of who accompanies you adds so much personalization to the experience, which I live for. Lily and Rex were my best friends till the end, even though they pissed me off. Each companion has a quest to go along with acquiring them, and some even have extra quests to enhance their strength. Enough about all the optional characters though. You guys want to hear about the main characters. House, Kaisar, Benny, NCR, the Boomers, and the Brotherhood of Steel. I'm mentioning whole factions rather than just the leader for some of them, because either they play a smaller role or I just don't know who the leader is. I'm sorry. I'm also not going to be talking about Courier 6 at all, because that's you. You can make them however you want them to be. Mine was a smooth talking assassin if you were wondering. She was really badass. Anyway, let's talk House, the big shark of New Vegas. A man who operates through computers and Securitrons to achieve his goal of reviving New Vegas into what it was before the nukes. He's actually who I chose to follow in the end, due to his logic-based ideas of business. House is a very formal man, and is more than welcome to work with people, but is also willing to kill anyone who gets in his way. He believes all his choices are for the greater good, and like I said earlier, I agree with him. I like him. Caesar! Or Kaisar, as they call him. Very obviously based on Julius Caesar, he commands the Legion, an entire group based on the Roman Empire. They operate out of a fortress on an island just off the coast and choose to use swords and other melee-style weapons for combat to further their Roman inspiration. If I'm mentioning Rome a lot, that's because that was my main takeaway from this faction. The Legion's main goal was to rule over New Vegas as a democracy and mimic the Romans. Alright, enough with the Romans, enough. Let's talk about murderers instead. Benny is the man who shot you in the face during the intro of the game and is constantly on the move, acting as shady as possible in the process. You don't actually get to formally meet him until the end of the game, and when you do, he is very quick to submit. Benny is a bitch. He's the cliche Vegas scam artist who plans to use everyone else to climb up to the top. And that's what would happen if you happen to follow his questline as well. Overall, he's an asshole, but Matthew Perry did a great job voicing him. R.I.P. Also, Benny just has a great suit. I love his checkered suit. Very, very classy. The New California Republic, or NCR for short. Pretty much the police and civil protectors of the wastelands around New Vegas. These guys want nothing other than peace and a formal government back in place. The NCR is genuinely full of good people trying to better the wasteland. I highly recommend choosing this ending if you want everyone to get along and have peace. And after looking into what they truly believed in, I feel bad for what I did to them in my playthrough. Sorry, NCR, you're good people. The Boomers are an isolated group stemming from Vault 34. They found an old Air Force base full of explosives and bomber planes. The Boomers don't really have a side in the war for Vegas, so it's up to you to gain their trust and get them on your side. If I could join any faction in the game, it would probably be the Boomers. They're all just a big family, they all trust each other, and are just full of care and respect. I love the Boomers. They are great people, and I even got one of them a hot redhead girlfriend. I basically am already a part of the family. Our last main group I want to mention is, of course, the Brotherhood of Steel, otherwise known as the people wearing those big power suits. The Brotherhood is thought to be extinct in New Vegas, and is nothing more than a myth to most people. Until you accidentally find their secret underground bunker and blow it up. Oops. The Brotherhood is a scary group. They're at the top of the NCR's most wanted for their radical ways, and I think because the NCR is scared of them also. Unlike the boomers, the Brotherhood is not very trusting and try to use you as a pawn, or I think they might kill you. If you don't listen, I think they're gonna kill you. I didn't get to spend much time with them in my playthrough due to fear, but if you were to follow their quest line, you would end up assisting them in taking over Helios 1, an energy station, and they would no longer stay in hiding. It's considered to be a good ending, but I don't know, I still don't trust them. There are a bunch of other groups in this game, including the Great Khans, the Powder Gangers, etc. But to be frank, I either don't care enough about any of them, or they're just side quests in my eyes. It's funny I say that, because over half this game is actually side quests, but in a good way. Oblivion doesn't write quests the same way Assassin's Creed writes a quest. Instead of having you follow an NPC around for 5 minutes 50 times in a playthrough, Fallout has you fast travel on the map and talk to NPCs 50 times in a playthrough. For some reason, this gameplay loop actually works. Each of the side quests you go on will more than likely have you traveling around the map collecting items or talking to people, but the payout afterwards is almost always worth it. Whether it be an insane story element or just an awesome boss fight, I always found myself doing more and more side quests than necessary. A lot of these optional missions have you discover new areas or sometimes new factions. I don't know if optional is the right word to use because you actually need to do side quests in this game to gain reputation and progress in the story, but you get the idea. The main quest line doesn't have you fast travel around the map as intensely, and instead you'll be walking to new important locations and acting as a middleman working for whoever you really please. Because at the end of the day, this is an RPG game where the player decides the fate of everything. I guess we should probably explain the story briefly to anyone who doesn't know by now. So here you go. Courier 6, aka you, were tasked with delivering the platinum chip to Mr. House. This is until Benny comes up and guns you down. Once Victor, the robot cowboy I mentioned at the beginning of the video, rescues you, you set off to track down Benny. And after a long journey, with a lot of bloodshed along the way, you find Benny and meet Mr. House, who both try to convince you to work for them. Caesar's Legion captures Benny as he tries to run away from you in fear. The Legion holds him hostage until you arrive and strike a deal with Caesar. It's around this point in the story that the player's choices really impact the story. You can choose to either help Benny, assist Caesar in destroying House's bunker, or help House use the chip to upgrade his Securitrons and grow New Vegas. There are other endings to choose from, but I feel like those are the main three. You can maybe throw NCR in there, or maybe listening to nobody and following your own path, but who's to say? You know, I'm just a guy talking in a microphone reading off a Google Doc, so. Anyway, this was a very, very brief summary of the game, because I assume you've either played it already, and if you haven't, I want to avoid every major spoiler. Because this game is a great story, so I really recommend just playing this game for the story. Enough of the boring story mumbo-jumbo. Let's talk gameplay. The one thing Fallout games are not known for is gameplay. The story, setting, characters, it's all great. But the gameplay is the definition of mid. The guns are all really cool and all have great designs, from old western to makeshift laser guns. But the gunplay is almost completely RNG. The enemies all have insane aim, and they all deal insane damage. It's a shame that everything about this game is so good up until you actually use the FPS factor. Sniping is borderline unusable unless you get your hands on a consumable to steady your gun sway. You also can't rush in with a shotgun and take everyone out wild style. It's best to hide behind cover or have one of your companions tank all the damage while you try your best to not shoot and injure them, which sometimes just can't be helped. Oh yeah, and another thing with the companions, alright? Picture this. You're peacefully walking down the road. Oh, there's a little bug. Oh, there's a little lizard. Oh, no bother, right? Wrong. They're actually a huge baller to Lily and Rex over here, who feel the need to swing my camera in the opposite direction, completely disorienting me in the process. I think it gave me whiplash a few times. The whole camera sequence thing doesn't just happen for them though. I don't know what causes it, but sometimes the game will just randomly decide to make this kill in slow motion and mess up the whole flow I had going. On the positive side of things, the stat system and special thing is still great. The perks you can get are awesome. I had a ton of fun putting everything into speech just for it to still not be enough by the end of the game. The outfits you could get were sometimes fun, but at least in my playthrough, I didn't encounter much variety in them, and not many acted as actual armor at all. Lockpicking has always been a staple in Bethesda games, and it's still awesome here. Besides the fact that it wouldn't twist as far to the side as I needed it to for some unknown reason. See, I would turn my mouse fully to one side, and it would think I did a full rotation or something. It was really annoying. Hacking was also really annoying at first, but then I figured out how it actually works, and I had a ton of fun trying to solve these puzzles. Stealth was a funny thing to toy around with, but once again, the companions kind of ruined it. I would try to sneak past some enemies, and Lily would go stealth with me, but Rex had other ideas and would charge directly into the Deathclaw, getting all of us killed. I think I actually enjoyed this game better before the companions came into it, but they're so helpful in combat. It's a double-edged blade, truly. Now, it may seem like I really don't like the gameplay, and that's not completely true, because I really did have a great time playing this game, when it would let me play, that is. This game probably crashed over 10 times during my 15-hour playthrough, and according to some of my friends, I'm lucky that it only happened 10 times. For example, world-famous fellow YouTuber Connor Murray told me that his game crashed 8 times during his 90-minute playthrough. He gave up after 90 minutes. I can't even blame him. No game should be crashing this often. New Vegas, it needs a remake, for God's sake. I didn't experience that many bugs during my playthrough, but I definitely had a few, such as enemies turning to allies. Why is it saying he's my ally? This NPC would not leave the room, but he'd follow me to Helios 1. Sometimes ragdolls just wouldn't ragdoll. At its core, New Vegas is a broken game. A beautiful yet broken game. But hey, at least I can gamble, right? Oh my god, I love gambling. Fuck! I love gambling, yes! Without the casinos, I think this game might be a 2 out of 10. But since I can play roulette, slots, and even blackjack, this is an 11 out of 10. Easily. Oh my god, I lost so many fucking caps. Oh my god. Despite every very, very obvious flaw that Vegas has, I get it. I understand why so many fans defend this game to hell and back. This game is 15 years old by now, and it shows. Don't question that. It definitely shows. But good writing never ages. And I think that's where Vegas really shines through. Every character has a unique personality. They all have their own lives going on in the background. Keep in mind, they still all do share VAs for some reason. Oblivion only had 18 months to make a AAA Fallout title. And personally, I think they gave us the best Fallout to date. Keep in mind, this is still the only Fallout I've ever played. Only Bethesda game I've ever played. I've never been a big fan of open world games, but I could easily see myself coming back to this game for a whole different playthrough. I could also easily see myself coming back to this game to gamble. That's for sure. Oh my god. Dude, I was this close to making big. You have no idea. Low number. Low number. Low number. Come on. What is that? Fuck! Get me out. I'm getting that fucking sex robot. Fuck you guys.